no need to ask, he's a smooth operator.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on this month's episode of the Transit Talk. I'm Roger Marenco.
Hello, I'm Pete Wilson. And with us today, we've got a very special guest. We have a member of our union. Our brothers and sisters out there know that it's not only the transit drivers, transit operators who are members of our union. We have Mark De Jesus, who is a fare inspector with the POP, a member of our union. Mark, introduce yourself, please. Say hello.
Hello, how you doing? Marcos Antonio De Jesus. Thank you, Pete and Roger, for having me here and presenting this forum so we can talk about the issues that are important to everybody. And
Indeed.
using your free time in that regard to I
Thanks
do
a lot,
appreciate
Mark.
that.
Thank you for joining us today. You're the first fare inspector to join us on the show, so welcome aboard. And you guys have always been welcome aboard. You know, it's just many operators don't actually know that you guys are even a part of this union. Friends, the Transit Talk is a monthly grassroots educational program organized by our fellow co-workers to bring you the two single most important fundamental elements of any and every movement. Number one, educating ourselves. Number two, organizing ourselves. And that's exactly what we're doing here today with the show, so thank you for tuning in. This month's episode is titled Problems and Solutions. Every single one of us on the force, whether you're a fare inspector or a transit operator, know what some of the problems are. We're constantly talking about the problems. There's a plethora of problems out there. We're constantly talking about it. However, oftentimes we don't necessarily talk about solutions. So this month's episode is titled Problems and Solutions. Let's stop talking about the problems since we already know what the problems are. Let's start talking about possible solutions. Now, some of the solutions that we're going to bring forward today are not the solutions. They're simply a solution. Maybe you and us together, every single one of us can come up with possible, feasible solutions in regards to the many different problems that are ubiquitous throughout the entire force. Let's start with something as simple and complicated as unrealistic schedules. Pete, what do you think about unrealistic schedules?
Well, I'll tell you, Roger, when I first started at Flynn and then went to Potrero, and then I thought, I'm going to go to Presidio. Things are going to be a little bit easier. But actually, my schedule was the thing that I probably stressed out the most. I don't worry about the swearing, the guy who swore at me on the 5 and whatever. It's just the schedule. Like looking at that piece of paper or now looking at that screen and worrying about that schedule. That new computer screen that we have, it's kind of, I'll look at it and says, you're on time, you're on time. I'll turn a corner, I'll come around, I'll come down, and I'll get to my time point and it says you're 2 minutes early. That thing is quite annoying. But I think that it does cause a little bit of stress to people. People talk about they want more time. I don't want more time during the run. I want more time on the layover.
The recovery time.
The recovery time. Because I think the most annoying thing is when you get to the end and you don't have enough time. Okay? When you have to worry, you have to rush. But what I hate is that fear, and I don't stress about it as much after 5 years, but those new drivers, I am a line trainer, so I meet a lot of the new guys, they worry about, being on time and not being early. And every once in a while, like people say, well, then just slow down. One time I was driving the 31, nobody at Pierce, nobody at Scott. I made the light at Divisadero, nobody. I turned right on Turk, and all of a sudden I'm almost to Masonic, and it says I'm 3 minutes early. So I had to stop at Central, right, and watch the 43 go by. And people were upset. They wanted to catch that 40. I can't go to Masonic. So what I would like to do, instead of just adding time to the schedule or subtracting time from the schedule, I would like to come up with a different schedule. Like one inspector, it was actually an inspector, an old driver, said to me, not a fare inspector, a supervisor inspector, he said, well, what if we moved the time point? Instead of having it at Masonic, what if we moved it to Roslyn, which is the next stop, so that I could drive to Masonic and stop at Masonic, and maybe I'm still 2 minutes early, and like Muni says, stop and wait for your time, but I could stop at Masonic and let the people catch the 43. You understand what I'm saying? Like at Geary, like you're driving the 38, you get up to Masonic and you're early, but you want people to catch that 43. So I think we just need to look at different ways of doing the schedule. When I was over at Fillmore, when you drove the 22 for a while, it didn't even have a schedule. And you guys, you're not at Flynn anymore, you're over at Green. But you know how when you're driving the 8 and you're on the freeway. I used to drive the 8 on the freeway in the morning. Excuse me, it's the 8X, and we drive on the freeway, and you all of a sudden you get to the end at 6th Street when it's coming off, and it would be backed up. So it would take you 15 minutes to get off the freeway. You'd be 10 minutes late. On other days you'd come and there'd be no traffic, and you drop down and you'd be 5 minutes early and you'd be in trouble. So I kind of think on that 8 that you guys should, or those people at Flynn now, should be able to drop off, and now they're just dropping people off. They're not picking people up. We actually just need to look at the schedule and just come up with some different ideas.
Interesting.
Different ideas.
So from what I gather from that, I'm going to take a very simple situation or scenario here. You're driving the 14 and you're a few minutes late and you're going outbound. If you're at 14th and Mission going outbound and you're 2 minutes early, what are you suggesting? That they drive up to 16th so that they could possibly transfer to the 22, the 55, the 14R, the
Don't
33.
forget the 33 Stanion, yes.
And then they just wait there until the appropriate time and then head out.
And then head out to 18th.
Because, okay, and then head out. Because
Why would you want to wait at 14th?
Because nothing's happening at 14th. There's no transfer points or anything.
Right.
That's an interesting solution. I
think
I like that.
It could improve customer relations, you know? How do you think those people on my bus thought about me when I'm sitting at Central? Oh, the 43 is going by. Sorry.
And you have to wait 1 block behind it.
Yeah.
Great point. That's a fantastic point. Mark, let me ask you this. I know that you guys oftentimes get on the buses, and one of the questions that you guys ask the operators, what is it? What's the question that when they're running late?
Basically, if you have time, we're going to be in and out, we inform the operator we're going to be checking the bus, and either we let them know we're going to be riding with them, you guys, or we're going to be hopping off and on. So we need them to hold the line until we finish the inspection. Now, and so you get some cases you come across where operators, they're, again, you guys are on a time schedule, and so what we like is to have that communication back and forth, because we like to respect the operators. They have a difficult job, and we don't make it any more difficult for them. So we ask them if they have the time. Now, or if the operators is short on time, we like to hear it, and they'll let us know. I'm running late. Can you mind? And it's not an issue.
Right.
So if a time is an issue for you, just feel free to let us know. Most of us shouldn't have a problem with that. In some cases, we have 2 options. In those cases, we either ride with you to save you that time and still do our job, or we just hop out altogether and just wait for the next line.
Right.
Okay. It's just an equal, understanding you guys' jobs, your position, and you guys understanding ours. And there'll probably be some operators that just don't want us checking their line at all.
Right.
Those are few and far between. But the majority of you guys have been very good and very patient and assisting us to help us utilize our job, whether we ride with you or we don't. But we have been doing a lot more riding on the lines this last 6 months. It's probably not quite as noticeable for most of the operators, because it's only about 30 odd inspectors active for the whole city. And again, we get different districts each day, assigned different districts. But again, we're here for you, just as you guys are here for us, and you're providing the safety, and as you guys do when you're driving the bus. So we are very appreciative of you guys' hard work and
working together.
And much respect.
Working together, indeed. Yeah. Thank you.
And let me add something else. We're as fare inspectors, we're there for more than just the fare. Okay, if you guys have any issues of any kind with patrons and the like and such, feel free, and we're happy to be on the line. Just let us know. I've been involved in many occasions when the operators, ask for my assistance for one thing or another. It could be a fare, it could be a disruptive patron, it could be a medical, it could be anything.
You guys
it could be an accident.
off?
I'm helping them take information that I know they need.
Right.
You'll take a disruptive passenger off the bus for you because there's 4 or 5 of you. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they do it quite often.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we, of course, we all have limits, just as you do, how far we can go with stuff. But like yourselves, but you have certain tactics you can
Right.
use to best
Right,
have a
right.
positive result. So
Thanks for that, Mark. Definitely, indeed, working together. So, in regards to unrealistic schedules, possible solutions that Pete just mentioned: number one, moving the time points, moving the checkpoints. Number two, actually pulling up to major intersections like 16th and Mission, and what was it, Gary and Masonic, right?
Well, just they're all over. Van Ness and Gary.
Right.
All
over the
They're
place.
all over. So
Right.
major intersections.
Possible solutions. We're not saying these are the solutions. They're simply possible solutions. Let's start talking about
You
solutions.
know what? Talking about solutions, I was at the last graduation and I saw Ed Reskin saying that pretty much everybody at SFMTA is there to support us,
Really?
to support the drivers. I wrote it down. I'll show you what I said. But it was to support us, to have us do the job. And I like to say, like, we're the football team and we're the players, and everybody else, they're the owners, the coach, the trainer, or whatever, because we're the ones out there doing it. So this might sound kind of crazy, but what if someday we had a meeting with Ed Reskin, and he's taken management classes in management and transportation. What if we had a meeting with the guy and said, hey, you want us to deliver good service? We want that too. How can we do it but lower the stress of our employees, because it's causing a lot of problems? You know?
Indeed. I
Yeah.
fully agree.
if I may add something.
Real quick, yes.
Yeah. And speaking of that, you want to, all of us want to be, heard and not just seen,
Right.
and though I don't have any people shy away from speaking their mind and speaking and making suggestions and the like, but it's also important, especially if you have good solutions, if you have good suggestions that regarding all these things we're pointing out, you have to make them in writing. Okay, it's not enough to make them verbal. You have to put it in writing through emails, through Riskin, or what have you.
We will
I mean,
definitely
not
do
to
that.
suggest you guys are not doing that. I myself, I put everything in writing. That way, if something were to come back and says, I informed you of this issue already,
Documented,
as documented,
right,
so
right.
they can't say they never knew.
Absolutely. Indeed. We're running kind of short on time here.
4 more points, though.
Number two, maxing out and pay after 48 months. Pete, what do you think about that? Maxing out and pay after 48 months. Prior to maxing out and pay after 48 months, we used to max out and pay after 18 months, year and a half.
I think it was 18 months plus the 9 weeks.
18 plus 2, correct.
Well, plus the training we did.
Correct.
That's how it was for us. So I remember when we were up for the contract, and I was not this last 3% contract, but the prior one where they changed the amount of time, and asking our president, I said, isn't that a little bit long? And he said yes. But Muni will see the error of their ways. Nobody will take the job, was his exact words, nobody will take the job, and Muni will have to fix it. So I don't think that's worked as of yet. The problem is, it's hard to afford to live in San Francisco. I'm lucky enough to have rent control to stay in San Francisco, but a lot of brothers and sisters are commuting in from Antioch and Hayward or wherever, Modesto, and the problem is drivers need their sleep. I mean, I'm not saying a librarian doesn't need their sleep, but studies have shown that if you don't have enough sleep, it's almost like being drunk, okay, when you're driving a vehicle. You can look that up, okay? There's the effects of not enough sleep. So if we have brothers and sisters driving in from Antioch or wherever they're driving in from and not getting enough sleep and having to work extra hours and work in RDO and work in other jobs because they're on 48 hours pay, that's not safe. That's not good. It's not safe for them. It's not safe for the rest of us.
Yeah, and stress does bring up fatigue.
Yeah.
The
Indeed.
more stress and being an operator it can be very stressful. Dealing with everything you guys have to do, Mother Nature and people and drivers alike.
So maxing out and pay after 48 months, definitely a hot topic, a problem. So Pete, how would you solve it? How would you?
Well, I'd like to go back. In this last contract, we had 2 votes.
Yes.
The 3%, but we also had number 2, which we were against.
Right.
The reason we were against it was because it was taking our brothers and sisters who have been here for like 3 years or 2 years and had already worked past the 63%, past the 8. They were getting ready to go to the 90%, and we were going to move them in with the new operators and stick them back at 80.
Right.
So, I mean, let's talk to the city and say, hey, that's 63 while they're training, and then moving them up to 80. That's pretty good because it was only that process was only 39 months or 38 months because it was 3 years plus the training, and they would have been done. So it's cutting off almost a whole year off that and at a higher rate.
So maxing out in pay after 48 months, a possible solution, bringing this issue up during contract negotiations. We are living in one of the most expensive cities in the entire United States of America. 48 months to max out in pay is absolutely ludicrous in my mind. Anybody that says, well, the SF fire department or the police department, they max out in pay after 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. You know what? I say to those people, if we were making what they are making, I would be happy maxing out in pay.
We're having their pension.
Absolutely. I would be more than happy maxing out in pay if we were making what the police department were making or the San Francisco Fire Department were making. So, in my mind, in my book, that's comparing apples and oranges, completely, totally separate. Because if we were making what the police department were making or what the fire department were making, I wouldn't have a problem with that. So, possible solution, feasible solution, bring that 48-month wage progression back down during those contract negotiations, period. Next, moving on with the list, since we're running short on time. Another problem, being written up for bogus charges. Now, that's definitely a problem. Many of us on the fleet have been written up, or know operators or fare inspectors that have been written up for bogus charges. So, how would you address that? How would you fix it? How would you ameliorate it? In a quick 60 seconds, tell us your situation, Mark, and then give us a possible solution in regards to being written up for bogus charges. What were you written up for? Let everybody
60
know.
60 seconds, well, I'll do my best. One of the things that come to mind, I was written up, and not that long ago, this year, for having my jacket zipped up.
Can you repeat that again? What were you written up for?
Having my jacket zipped up when I was cold.
Having your jacket.
So you're having a
zipped
jacket
up.
on. One puts a jacket on because they're cold. You have your dress shirt, your uniform dress shirt, and you have a jacket. And now, if, depending on how the weather is, either you walk out and perform your job with just your dress shirt because maybe it's warm outside, or maybe the weather as conditions are in San Francisco, it fluctuates and it's generally cold, so you have a jacket. So they brought issue with me having my jacket zipped up. Now this year they created a new policy stating that, and they did it just for my benefit and a few other inspectors who have a tendency to have their jackets zipped up, whether you're inside the building or outside. Okay, and this new policy states the shirt collar must be visible at all times, except when standing in extreme weather outside. So they determine what weather conditions is appropriate for you to zip up your jacket. At no point in time are you supposed to be zipping up your jacket if it doesn't meet extreme weather conditions. Not only that, if you happen to be cold, coming from outside, it's cold, you're coming to be inside, how many of you forget to, you're still cold inside?
We have
You
those
know,
double doors at 1 South Van Ness.
Yeah.
Maybe there should be a sign there that says, remember to unzip your jacket when you step through the second set of doors.
Correct. So you have to, because of this policy, you have to be reminding yourself to unzip your jacket, or you can potentially get written up, which I have been. I've been written up for not having my jacket zipped up, therefore not having my blue shirt visible. And it doesn't matter if I'm cold. They went so far to say at one point I would just I was feeling ill, just coming off cold, and I took days off and I came back to work, and you still have some effects when you're ill, and so I was keeping bundled up. When you're cold, everybody knows this. You have a hat on to keep your head warm. You have your neck. You keep your neck warm. You have a jacket to keep your chest warm, and you have good shoes and socks to keep your feet warm. That's how you properly keep warm. Well, I end up zipping up my jacket because I want to keep my neck warm, and they said, well, you can't have it zipped up while it's inside the building. I said, well, I told them I'm just coming off a cold. It says, well, either you call off sick, or you put another jacket on. And I said, well, what good would an extra jacket on top of my jacket do if I can't zip it up? This is what we're talking about. Again, it speaks to you being seen but not heard. I mean, Riskin talks about suggestions. He talks about treating people respectably and all that. That's not getting through management. They don't see that. So we're talking about things such as that. I mean, I had a coworker also get written up for making copies of her workman's comp information because she was it was on a deadline and she needed to extend it. And so she was making copies, utilizing the company resources, the copy machine and such to make copies. And you would think that would not have been a problem. It's work related.
Wow, interesting.
They wrote her up for using the company resources, the copy machine, for personal use, which is not personal use.
Real quick,
Yes.
because I was just doing some light reading today of the Rules and Instruction Handbook for SFMT. You've seen this. You got a copy of this lovely book, don't you?
We all do.
It actually says in here we're supposed to carry it at all times. But interesting, it actually said that your union rep and you can view any film. This doesn't pertain to you as much walking into a building. Well, you could probably get the film at the building to see how high your jacket was. But if there's an incident that happens, when I've had a couple of issues where my union rep actually didn't show up to represent me, that needs to be changed. The superintendent of your division needs to say, hey, these are the times I have available. You tell me when you can come in. Oh, and you guys need to see the film? It says in here that you and your union rep can look at the film. Have you ever had that option to look at the film?
Luckily, I've never been in the office like that.
Yes. Well, I have.
haven't yet.
I have.
Interesting. So being written up for bogus charges. I revert back to your comments or suggestions of having a sit-down meeting with the head honchos and letting them know that these issues are occurring and that they are completely bogus. Moving on. Number 4. Denial of time off for vacation. So this is a very interesting one. It doesn't pertain to some operators as it does to other operators. And what I mean by that is over at the rail department, I've constantly been hearing the news in regards to vacation and a lack thereof. I hear several operators that have 10 years seniority, 11 years seniority, but they are for some reason unable to take vacation even though they have quite a few hours of overtime. And I just thought that this was very interesting. I didn't really understand how that worked or how that functions or how it doesn't function, but I just found it very interesting that there are operators who say that they have upwards of 100, 200 hours of vacation, but it's difficult for them to take time off, especially particularly in the rail department. Pete, any suggestions on that?
Well, I think we could come up with the problem is it might cost SFMTA a little bit of cash, but if
SFMTA has plenty of cash.
If you are on the F line, that maybe they could train more people on the F line to drive LRVs, and then the people who are driving LRVs, if they're trained to drive the F line, that they could cover each other when they wanted to go on vacation. Hey, I understand that there's one operator who is kind of like on his own floating extra board, and he does cable car. Actually, he was on our show, right, Torpedo? He can do cable car, LRV, F line. He even drives trolleys out of Presidio. Why don't we offer that? Hey, if they offer to me, hey, we'll teach you to drive cable cars and LRVs, and because we need some people who are semi-reliable to come in and cover some of these people so they can have vacation time, I'd be happy to do that and get my rail pay.
Indeed. You know, some of the consensus that I've been hearing from the rail operators over at Green is that they'd like to see it separated, the vacation sign-up, in terms of the LRVs and the F lines. So, you know, maybe that's a possible, feasible solution. And like I've mentioned before on this episode, it's not the solution, it's simply a solution. So let's start talking about some of these solutions. We know what the problems are. Every single one of us knows what the problems are. We constantly talk about it. Let's start talking about solutions. Hence the point of the program today. Anything else in regards to that, Pete?
No.
Okay. Moving on to our last and final point today, because it's only a 30-minute segment and we don't have time to talk about the many other issues and problems that are constantly out there. Lack of pay for travel time. Pete, take it away.
Well, there's a court case. I don't know if you guys have heard about this court case regarding travel time. And I talked to the lawyer myself. I went down to the union hall and met with the lawyer, and he pulled out a couple things out of this handy-dandy little book here. And one thing says employees must examine the bulletin board each working day prior to operating a vehicle. So at that time, I was driving the 30 Stockton. So I'm supposed to be down at Sutter Stockton at, let's say, 12 o'clock. But according to this rule, I would have to go to Presidio, check out just to look at the bulletin board, not get paid for that, and then go down to Sutter Stockton. And there's another rule here, that's 2.33. Then there's 4.1.1. Operators must report for duty at designated location, here's the important word, before their scheduled start time. You're not supposed to go at your start time when you're getting paid. You're supposed to go before. Failure to do so will be considered absence without leave. So, I mean, one option, now this is kind of crazy, one option would be to talk to Ed Reskin and show him this stuff. And if he said, well, that's okay, but we're not going to pay you, but you still have to do it. And your report time at, we don't drive the 30 anymore, but we drive the 45. Let's say I had to go to Sutter Stockton. And it said, okay, 12 o'clock. What if we then reported over to Presidio or Potrero for the 30 and showed up at 12 o'clock and told the dispatcher, yeah, I'm here to look at the bulletin board. You're supposed to be downtown. Well, I'm sorry. We need to come in here to look at the bulletin board, and I'm getting paid, and that's what I'm here to do.
There are actually some operators that are in the midst of that predicament, indeed.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. We'll
Got to
see
read
how
the
that
bulletin board.
pans out. Yeah, very interesting indeed. So, you guys, there was only 5 points of discussion, 5 quote problems that we talked about today. As you can see, the time dwindles down quite quickly. However, there are a plethora of other problems out there, as you all already know out there. So please let us know some possible feasible solutions, regardless of how I guess silly you might think they are. It doesn't really matter. We can all work together. Hence the points of the transit talk is to get the information out here, to get everybody educated and on the same page so that we can try and come up with possible feasible solutions. Our time is definitely dwindling down now, so with these last few minutes that we have, I'd like to offer you 30 seconds.
Well,
Closing
Mark?
comment?
speaking of everything we talked about, one of the solutions that come to mind again is to each of us within our own unit to come together. When one has a problem, whether it be yourself and you have an issue with regards to manager or write-up or what have you, that as a union members, we within our department, we all get together and help that one person, not just one shoplifter. I mean, excuse me,
Shop steward.
shop steward, but everybody. Okay, you know, when I spoke of the collar, I mean, to me that's a EEO issue. I mean, people have different body temperatures, people's age, discriminating against people's age because of different body temperatures and such. And I forward all those reports to them. And if one thing we had a shop steward or Andrew and them were able to say, okay, let's get a petition, let's get everybody's signature to say, hey, we don't want this new policy and this, we need to scratch this extreme weather conditions. We may have got some headway into getting this policy removed. You see, but when one person has this issue and you're taking it upon yourself, and the only person handling it makes them that much more difficult.
Well, it's great that you had Andrew to back you up on that.
Yeah, and management doesn't want you. They're fighting you, and it's in their best interest that no one helps you.
Right.
So they don't want you.
What do you mean nobody helped you? Andrew didn't back you up?
No. Andrew, I called Andrew to sit in on it, but he felt it was petty. It wasn't important enough.
Yeah.
But it was important to you.
But it was important to me, and that's the point. You see, he's not getting paid to decide what's important and what's not important. Okay? He's there to do the best job he can in getting that right of removal, which he wasn't able to do. I mean, if you can't get that removed, then what can you do?
Well, thank you for that. Mark went over 30 seconds, but that was quite all right because you came up with a great solution right there, right? Get a petition going saying, hey, Mr. Ed Riskin, Mr. Haley, Mr. whoever, Miss such and such. Look, we have a signature petition here with 1,300 signatures from operators saying that this one policy here needs to be revised. Pete, 30 seconds.
All right, 30 seconds. Thank you. I'll try and make it quick. First of all, hope you guys have enjoyed your new Transit Talk pens. These were independently produced. It's interesting, the union has made pens and they're handing them out But there was actually the vice president went to Flynn and was promoting himself and bad talking you and handing out pens at the same time. I don't think the union should hand out pens when, and he's talking about, I'm vice president now, but I'll be the future president, handing out pens that were paid for by our dues. We paid for these pens and we hope you enjoy them and don't lose them. They're orange, like my orange armband. Did you guys know that we're going to new uniforms? And they dropped the orange. What's up with that? Now they work pretty well except for this one. If your union chair happens to decide to slap your hand when you hand it to him, it might break. Okay?
Is that what happened with that pen?
That's an issue with that one. That's an issue with that one.
You handed that one to your
Yes.
union chairperson. Wow,
And even though I was wearing this, which is this KT tape, some of you might have issues with your knee with like a tennis elbow from driving. This actually helped quite a bit. I found out about this from a passenger, and it really helps alleviate quite a bit of the pain. If you're getting pain from turning like this too much, make sure you use both arms and try and use your arms in different ways. KT tape, it's called. Okay? We're losing the uniforms. Oh, the health in the arm. Oh, and that's it. I just hope that the future administration of our union gets together every once in a while and brainstorms and brings in operators and talks about solutions and gets some of these things worked on.
What Pete is referring to in regards to future administration is, don't forget, folks, that we have the elections coming up in December of 2017, and everybody is up for election, re-election, or just getting brand new faces in, as Pete constantly alludes to in regards to the new administration. So don't forget to vote December 2017. Well, with that in mind, folks, I'd like to say thank you to all of you out there for joining us. I'd like to thank our director, Camlin, our behind-the-scenes producer, our lead apparel designer, Mike, our online administrator, David. Special thanks to all of you out there for tuning in. Remember, friends, get educated, get organized, join the movement, and our monthly general membership meetings are the third Wednesdays of every month. There are 2 meetings, one in the morning and one in the evening. Get educated, get organized, join the movement. Pete will be there. Until next time, be safe out there, you guys.
Thanks for coming, Mark.
Smooth operator.